You're recording.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It is 6:31 p.m. Notice is hereby given that this is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, being held today, Thursday, March 25th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. at Sandy Oaks City Hall, located at 4451 Hickory Haven, Sandy Oaks 78112, which is being live streamed and accessible to the public as provided below for the purpose of considering the following agenda items. All agenda items are subject to action. In an effort to advance the public health goal of limiting face-to-face meetings, also called social distancing, to slow the spread of the coronavirus, COVID-19, there will be no in-person public access to the meeting. In accordance with the order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16, 2020, the City of Sandy Oaks will provide a live stream video and telephonic access of the meeting to the public. The public may participate in this meeting by using the phone number or link that's provided on the agenda. The public will be permitted to offer public comments telephonically or by audio as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting by signing up with the City Secretary at least 2 hours in advance of the meeting by emailing cityclerk@cityofsandyoaks.com or by calling 210-607-0834. Written comments may be submitted to the City Secretary up to 2 hours before the meeting by emailing cityclerk@cityofsandyoaks.com and will be provided to the City Council for their consideration. A recording of the phonic meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Texas Public Information Act upon written request. Ms. Shelton, can we get a quorum call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Alderman Fillinger.
Here.
Alderman Bricken. Alderman Bricken.
Here.
Alderman Rapino.
Here.
Alderman Crickmer.
Here.
Alderman Puente. Here. And on Zoom, we do have the City Attorney, Cassandra Ortiz. You do have a quorum.
Perfect, thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda, Mayor and Administrator announcements and updates. We do have a date and future dates for mobile vet clinics that we are bringing back to the city. The first one will be on Saturday, April 17th from 9 to 4 p.m. And the schedule currently is they will be here every third Saturday of the month. So notices were sent out by Nixle. A reminder is already scheduled the week of to remind people about the mobile vet clinics.
What hours did you say?
9 to 4. Item number 3, citizens to be heard. Ms. Shelton, do we have any?
No, we did not.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. We only have one item on the consent agenda, which is approve the minutes from the March 11th, 2021 regular City Council meeting.
If there's no discussion, I move that we approve the minutes from the March 11th, 2021 regular City Council meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Rapino and a second by Alderman Puente to approve the minutes from the March 11th, 2021 regular City Council meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We'll move on to item 5. Updates and announcements for Marshall Lopez with possible discussion and action. Do you have any general announcements to make, Marshall Lopez?
No, ma'am.
All right.
Good plan.
We're going to move to item 5A, which is executive session to deliberate the appointment, compensation, hours, duties, benefits, and start date for the deputy marshal pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, which relates to personnel matters. So it is 6:35 p.m. and we are adjourning to executive session. 6:30, yes, okay.
Cassandra, you're just gonna hold on there? I'm assuming you said yes, I'm just.
I'll just hold till y'all come back out of executive session.
A full value, and the value.
You ready?
This fiscal year. Maybe carry it over.
You're on pause.
On pause? Okay.
You are on pause.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear us okay, Cassandra?
She gave the thumbs up.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And we're gonna have to use that for,
Official.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I thought I paused. So that would be the.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay, it is 6:53 PM. We're coming back into regular session. And we'll move on to item 5B. Discuss and or possible action on the appointment, compensation, hours, duties, benefits, and start date for the deputy marshal. So I would like to make a nomination for the appointment of Joelle, I get it wrong every time, Magny, for the position of deputy marshal. And I would like to, well, let's start there. So would anybody like to make a motion for the appointment?
I'll move that we appoint Joel Magny as a deputy marshal for the city of Sandy Oaks.
And I will second that.
So we have a motion from Alderman Rupino and a second from Alderman Fillinger to appoint Joelle Magny to the position of deputy marshal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Let's talk then about the compensation, hours, duties, and benefits, and the start date. I'd like to invite Marshal Lopez to join this conversation, please. So do you have, I thought you were leaving.
No, I'm not over here.
So for hours and duties, that would be up to you to determine for your department how you need to adjust. Do you have any idea on how you want to do that, or?
Well, he's still currently employed at his other place of employment, so he just gave his 2 weeks. So we're looking probably his start date, April 12th.
April 12th? And that is on a, what day?
Monday.
That's a Monday. Okay. April 12th. And what hours?
During the first 3 months, he's going to be under FTO training, and after that, then he'll be moved to nights.
Okay,
Put on everything successful on FTO.
okay. And then the benefits would be the standard benefits that are offered to the employees that are on payroll now. And Catherine can provide you with that package that you can take home and look over. And then the last item has to do with compensation. So do you have an idea of a number that we need to consider?
Starting off at what I recommend is starting off at 36, even though he has almost 4 years of experience. However, during FTO and 6 months of probation, and after 6 months, then we'll come back and review that
Okay, so
pay
after
increase.
6 months.
What did the math man say?
He said,
Is that-
hold on, he didn't hear you,
Okay.
but you heard him.
I heard him.
I heard.
He said,
You didn't
start
hear
date will be Monday, April 12th.
Oh, I got that with the compensation.
Okay, starting will be at 36,000. After 6 months, then it'll be reviewed for an increase at that time.
After 6 months or after the FTO training?
Yeah, okay. After 6 months or after the FTO training.
Well, FTO is 3 months and then probation 6 months,
Yeah.
right? So then at the end of 6 months.
Is he a salaried employee or an hourly employee?
He's an hourly.
Hourly.
Yes.
Yes. Just like Deputy Castillo
Okay.
is.
So that's going on a 40-hour work week,
Well,
36K?
it equates to an hourly rate for
Correct.
Yes.
They still do 2,000 hour a year.
2,080 hours.
Thank you.
1730,
Thank
And
you,
then-
St. George.
No, it's
Payroll.
payroll.
1731 an hour.
There you go.
All right, sounds
Okay.
good.
So with that,
Should we ask,
we should ask.
Mr. Bagley, is that acceptable to him?
It's too late, y'all are.
Aye.
Y'all
Well,
are.
we-
It's too late.
We made a motion, but he has to accept.
Aye.
Increase the
Oh,
dollar.
thank you. I'm gonna need these. Okay, so with that, does anyone else have any questions on council? Would someone like to make a motion then?
I thought we did.
Just for the appointment, not for the
Oh,
other
the
items.
salaries. Gotcha. Sorry.
Okay. Nobody
Go
else
ahead,
wants to
go
jump
ahead, Charles. I'll let
I have a
you do it.
question.
Yes, go ahead.
As far as equipment, firearm,
That's all provided.
tactical gear and all that, is that in the budget okay?
Yes, it's
Okay.
all provided for here.
Okay. In the absence of any other comment, I will move that we appoint Mr. Magny, starting with the salary of $36,000 a year during the period of his FTO training and probation. Standard benefits as we supply for all of our full-time employees. Duties will be assigned by Marshall Lopez. Hours assigned by Marshall Lopez. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Rapino to appoint Joelle Magny as the deputy marshal with starting salary of $36,000, start date of April 12th, and duties and hours to be assigned by Marshall Lopez and benefits to be standard as offered to employees. We have any other discussion, any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Welcome. And we have one other item here. I'm gonna go ahead and should I swear him in now?
Yeah.
Or wait till the 12th.
Oh, we can do
Let's do
it.
it now.
Let's do it
Yeah.
now. He's
Do it
here.
now.
Let's do it now. So if you could join me up here.
Now, do you want to do it over here?
Mhm.
Do it over here.
That's why with the flags up there.
Oh, is that why?
Well, maybe, I thought it was.
Well, good. Okay, if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joelle P. Magny,
I, Joel P. Mackey,
do solemnly swear that I have, be right back.
What did I do? Chose the
I
wrong
chose the
one?
wrong
Okay.
one. Let's start over. I could tell as soon as I got in that was wrong. Let's try this again. Let's raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joelle P. Magny,
I, Joel P. Mackey,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Deputy Marshal
of the office of Deputy Marshal
for the city of Sandy Oaks
for the city of Sandy Oaks
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
of the best of my abilities,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of this state, so help me God.
and of this state, so help me God.
Pictures.
Mhm.
Oh, yes. you'll
Oh,
get
wait.
pictures.
Wait 1 second.
Okay, don't worry, it'll never get on the website, right?
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It will eventually. He said, don't. Doesn't matter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Joelle, I need you
Congratulations.
Thank you,
to
sir.
sign this and we'll get you a
The girl,
copy as
stop.
well.
Can't give that nothing,
Stop.
Just knock it. You can sign on that one.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank
Welcome.
you, thank you.
And y'all are welcome to stay, or you're free to go. Because we're gonna get into some stuff you're not gonna like.
Okay.
You're free to stay, I'm just saying.
Very nice meeting y'all.
Is that your cheerleader, your ball players?
This is my shit, she's a salt right here.
All right.
Say
Oh,
hi.
hi, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Y'all have a good
Thank you.
evening. Thank you for coming in. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 5D. Discuss and/or possible action on establishing a citizen complaint review board and appointment of members. So I will turn this over to Marshall Lopez and let him explain this program to us.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council of the city of Sandy Oaks. So obviously within every department, we're looking to better our department when it comes to interactions with citizens of our city. And so I reached out to Chief Pena from the city of Elmendorf, and he implemented and created a citizen complaint review board for his city, and he's had some good things. Obviously, there's always two sides for when you bring something in brand new. You have the good and you have the bad. And so talking to him about this program, you know, it gives the opportunity for a citizen that feels that the interaction with an officer, city of Sandy Oaks, whether it's a police officer or animal control officer, if they feel that there's a violation when it comes to how we interact, when it comes to policy and procedure, use of force, language, and things of that nature. So bringing that in and seeing people from other eyes to see those things gives more transparency. First and foremost, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and addressing those issues that come with it. So, you know, bringing this, looking at it and talking about it and discussing it, you know, I think it's a good program as well. Obviously, there's things that need to be worked out as well, and implementing and developing certain criteria for this program. So if you want to take the time to read over it, or I can start off from the beginning. So for the agenda, development purpose of the CCRB, guidelines on sworn complaints and the process, policy waiver forms, confidentiality, goals. So the development purpose of the CRB, without the creating of it, was engrafted by heart, mind view to all issues that are occurring with the police encounters with public citizens, community throughout different states, cities, and local governments. Obviously, the situation of Ferguson happened in Missouri, Dallas, San Antonio, those interactions. And so if you can continue, CCRB will continue to develop as a unique body to be fair and impartial as it intended to be. So the purpose of the CCRB, and an avenue to review sworn complaints from the public, citizens, and or the community against peace officers or animal control officers, any officer that's employed with the city of Sandy Oaks or my department. So for allegations for misconduct and those nature. Transparency. I, as the city marshal / chief police, wanted a program to implement due to the growth of the police department and interactions with the public citizen and community. So overall, to gain trust and confidence in the community that we serve by being transparent when an issue arises and is brought forth to the police chief office in form of complaints and is handled impartially and fairly. Guidelines on sworn complaints process. Sandy Oaks Police Department Citizen Complaint Review Board policy. The CCRB policy has 5 sections and subsections. Section 1, gives an overview of the establishment of the CCRB and authority to investigate alleged misconduct complaints against officers of the Sandy Oaks Police Department. Section 2, the makeup board consists of 3 residents, a police officer, an employee in the city of Sandy Oaks, and an elected official. That can also be changed as well, and possible discussion for that. Statute of limitations, submit complaints to CCRB, open for discussion as well. It could be 24 hours, it could be 48 hours to give the citizen an opportunity to put things together and submit that. CCRB is to serve as a 1-year term. If a vacancy occurs, protocol will be initiated. Protocol on non-exempted employees serving on the CCRB. So a little bit more in depth, the powers and duties of the board. The board shall have the power to receive, investigate, hear, make findings, and recommend action upon complaints by members of the public against members of the department that allege misconduct involving excessive use of force, abuse of authority, discourtesy, or use of offensive language, including but not limited to slurs relating to race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and disability. The findings and recommendations of the board and the basis, therefore, shall be submitted to the chief of police. These findings and recommendations of the board regarding a complaint against the chief of police and the basis, therefore, shall be submitted to the city administrator or mayor. All findings or recommendations must be based solely upon a sworn complaint or statement. The department will not forward to the board, and the board will not investigate unsworn, unsubstantiated, or unfounded complaints. The board may promulgate rules or procedure and deem necessary, including rules that prescribe the manner in which investigations are to be conducted and recommendations made and manner by which a member of the public is to be informed of the status of his or her complaint. At least 4 members of the board, including the chair, must be present for any discussion, investigation, or recommendation regarding an assigned complaint. Each board will meet to determine schedule, discuss procedures prior to considering a complaint or hearing or evidence regarding a complaint. The board, by majority vote of its members, may compel the attendance of a witness required to the production of such records and other materials as are necessary for the investigation of complaints submitted pursuant to this section. The board shall issue the city council a report at the end of each year term, which described as activities summarized in its actions for that year. Continue. In the events that a board member is related with the 2nd degree of an affinity, marriage, or within the 3rd degree by continuity of blood to the officer subject to the complaint, or a witness whose testimony or account of the circumstances related to the complaint will be reviewed by the board or who will be interviewed by the board. To relate, board members must notify the board in writing of their relationship and abstain from any discussion or vote regarding any case in which the relationship exists. Cooperation of the department. The department shall provide such assistance as the board may reasonably request, cooperate fully with the investigation by the board, and provide the board upon request records and other materials with which the board deems necessary for the investigation of complaints submitted pursuant to this section, except such as record or materials that cannot be disclosed by law. The chief of police shall ensure that officers and employees of the department appear before and respond to inquiries of the board in connection with the investigation of complaints submitted to the board, provided that such inquiries are conducted in accordance with the department procedures for interrogation of members. The chief of police shall report to the board regarding any action taken in cases which the board has submitted finding or recommendations to the chief of police with respect to a complaint. Effect on the board. The creation of the board should not be construed to limit or impair the authority provided in the City of Sandy Oaks Police Department Policy Manual and the Department General Manual to discipline members of the department or be construed to limit the rights of the members of the department with respect to disciplinary action, including but not limited to the right to notice and a hearing which may be established by state, federal, or ordinance resolution policy of the City of Sandy Oaks. The creation of the board should not be construed to prevent or hinder the investigation or prosecution of members of the department for violations of law by any court, competent jurisdiction, grand jury, district attorney, or authorized office, agency, or the body. City of Sandy Oak Citizen Complaint Review Board waiver and release form. The complaint releaser submits a sworn complaint. A waiver or release needs to be submitted with a sworn complaint. The waiver and release form is for the releaser to waive the right to confidentiality or protection from the disclosure of the CCRB. This is for the CCRB can review all records that might otherwise be protected in accordance with the CCRB to make a true and impartial assessment of the alleged complaint. Confidentiality. Confidentiality is imperative as you, the CCRB, serve as in the capacity. You as a CCRB will privy to information, videos, watch guard, and body cam reports while it pertains to the very nature of the complaint. Any information, any kind that was said, heard, or seen remain confidential. If the CCRB member discloses any information other than those who are directly involved, such as the complaint, the officer involved, the chief of police, and the city administrator, if the complaint involving the chief of police, there could be possible civil action against the member. Each CCRB will sign a confidential agreement form. There are several goals that I would like to see for the CCRB. To be transparent with the citizens, public, and community as a whole when a complaint is submitted on an alleged misconduct. To increase effectiveness, impartial fairness as what the CCRB is intended to do. To lead, to be an example to other agencies and cities that the CCRB is the first in the city of Sandy Oaks and pave the way for others to implement the same.
Is
Very
this something
good.
you want?
Like I said, there's always two sides to everything, you know? So, I mean, we do have a process in place now, a complaint form, whether there is a CCRB or not, there's still a process here and we're still developing that as well, you know? I always want transparency with the community of what goes on here because we're here to protect and serve. That's our job, you know? That's not my determination. If city council wants to move forward, and then I will agree with what the city council may want.
I do have a question for you. Under section 2, item B, where it talks about statute of limitations to submit complaints, is that currently defined at the state or TCO level? Or is that something that we would have to define? And I would also defer to Ms. Ortiz on that one as well.
48 hours? Is that what you're speaking of? 48 hours?
Whenever there is a complaint, what is the statute of limitations for the timeline to actually have a formal complaint filed?
It's 24, 48 hours?
It could be whatever we discuss.
Right.
So,
But is there, Ms. Ortiz, is there currently a state guideline on that, or is that defined by TCO, or we
No.
can choose what we want
yeah,
it to
we can
be?
choose.
Yeah, I don't know of any statute of limitations by TCO or state level that would be a council decision whether there would be a statute of limitations and for how long.
Yes, sir.
I've looked at not necessarily CCRBs, but similar agencies. And it varies within cities in the state. So I don't think that there's a standard
Okay.
statute of limitations.
You wouldn't want to go too long because memories,
Sure.
deteriorate over.
We keep,
How long do we keep body cam?
we keep video for 90 days.
Okay.
And everybody has a body camera that's on all the time.
Yes, anytime an officer, all my officers have body cams, anytime they have interaction with members of the public, whether it be how small or how big, it needs to be activated. So,
I have a question.
yes, sir.
We're just advancing to the third police officer, and then we have an animal control officer. And I know you have plans to have, or I've heard you had plans, I don't know, to have some reserve officers. And you want to make it into a police department, which we already agreed to. I'm just wondering, are we being, are we, is this premature, or is this something you see, think, or we're supposed to decide whether it's necessary now, or something we can take a look at a month from now?
I mean, we're discussing this now, we're bringing it to the table and, just for discussion. I mean, we can always bring it up at a later time, and discuss this further. So, like I said, we still have a complaint process, a complaint form, so.
How is it different from our current complaint process that we have now?
Well, everything starts with a complaint. Without a complaint, nothing started. Complaint, same thing. Once a complaint comes in, I review it, and then depending if the complaint has the severity of it, we review it, and then look at the standards that we're still implementing, changing on that with the complaint form as well. I review it and look at whatever policies or misconduct, if there is any. So,
And it's just reviewed by yourself?
yes,
Or
or obviously any complaint, I'm gonna bring to the mayor and
Okay.
advise her a complaint has been submitted. So not just to keep it to myself, that there's more, the mayor as her position,
And to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, there has yet to be a formal complaint filed.
Yeah.
What has happened is I do get phone calls or messages or people reach out to me about a particular situation. So I reach out to Marshall and say, tell me what happened
Yeah.
with this, and I'd like to view the body cam footage. So there's nothing has ever progressed past that. There's never been a need to do that. This process here is something that we're considering as we are moving into a police department, and we are adding additional officers. So the department is growing. A lot of the complaints that I hear is a lot of social media chatter. There hasn't been a one of them that has ever made a phone call or filed an official complaint. So, I take those with a grain of salt. People get upset. They get a ticket, they get upset. I get it. That's the way it is. But this formalizes an official complaint process. And this is based on, it's built from an existing CRRB that has been in place with Elmendorf, and it's been very successful with them. I had a conversation with Chief Pena months ago about it as well. I think he's only had 2 or 3 official complaints. Now, the benefit of doing it this way is it is a sworn complaint. So once you are willing to say, yes, I testify that this is indeed true, then this kicks in.
In a way, it protects him.
Well, it protects everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
because if
protects
there
the city.
is something that is not as it should be, it allows recommendations from, and we'll go into that because there was a question I had on that as well. But it allows a procedure on how is that rectified? How do we address that? Is it a training situation? Is it a,
Corrective action.
what kind, yes, what do we need to put a reprimand in the file? What needs to happen from that?
It allows process improvement.
It does.
So we can still tailor this to fit Sandy Oaks.
Yes, we can.
My question is, what's the length of time? Does the CCRB gather within 48 hours of the complaint, a week how long is the time period before them to review the complaint?
Putting everything together, reaching out to the mayor and reaching out to the individuals that have been selected, if it goes through, and coordinating with them what is a good time and date to meet and convene together.
Ms. Ortiz, I do have a question for you on that. Would these
Yeah, it's gonna take time.
board reviews fall under the Texas Open Meetings Act, therefore requiring a notification, and are they open to the public?
I think that would be something up to council too. However, I would, looking at other cities, some did have them subject to the Open Meetings Act, some did not. I would be concerned of the privacy of the officer and have only certain individuals allowed in the in the room based on the discretion of the board or the police chief, depending who can assist. So almost like a hearing, but a private hearing. But I did see some cities that did have it as an open meeting for the public to attend.
Members that have signed a
Yeah, then
confidentiality agreement, it can hardly be an open meeting.
An open meeting, you're correct. Well,
Yeah.
and in response to what Ms. Ortiz just said, I think it is also protective of the complainant as well,
Exactly.
because you don't want somebody,
Want their business out there.
exactly, I think that would discourage complaints. I mean, the intent is not to encourage complaints, but to give people an opportunity to have a venue.
Well, the person that files the complaint is not bound to confidentiality. So,
There's
you
that,
know, they're gonna say what they're gonna say.
right?
But if we have residents of the community participating in this, they can say, that's not what we found,
Without
without
further,
breaking confidentiality.
Yeah.
You
okay,
know, we because the board is gonna make a report annually to council. And, you know, it will say, I hope 2 complaints were filed.
Right.
And none of them were actionable.
Right. okay,
So I believe that the meetings actually need to be like an executive meeting because it is a confidential matter.
okay, so going back to Alderman Crickmer's question, so from the time that you would receive an official complaint, what would be an acceptable time frame for you to notice the CCRB that we need to have a meeting?
Depending, obviously, reviewing body cam, investigating it, sitting down with the complainant as well, obviously for the complaint. So honestly, I couldn't give a timetable. Yeah.
It would really depend on the nature of the complaint and how difficult it would be to investigate all the parameters
Right,
that are involved.
Is there legal matters involved here?
yes,
It's
yes, whenever you're interfacing with the police department, it is
if
potentially a legal matter,
someone's civil rights have been violated, yes, it's a legal matter.
Well, I
right?
mean, with the
If
board,
somebody
would the board
files a
be-
false report,
That's a legal
it's
matter.
a legal matter.
board be liable for anything in there?
I'm sorry?
Would the board be liable for anything? Would they be called into court to testify or anything like that?
This is just this would just be a
Yeah,
review.
I don't believe so.
I don't
sir.
believe so.
Okay.
The
Their
only legal
decision-
matter for a board member would be if they violated the confidentiality of the investigation.
Okay.
This is to address potential disciplinary action against an officer.
Right.
Yeah, that's really what this is about.
And that would take place after the board. And it would
Yeah.
still be up to him.
All the
Well,
information
not-
would be submitted to,
Right.
once it gets going and it's done, then submitted to council. So, I mean, the board, so we can sit down in time and say, hey, this is what was founded, discussion, open for discussion. So what I want people to understand is that you got to have a complaint. It's got to be submitted. Social media, if a citizen is not
Social-
happy for the
Social media
department,
is good for riots, it's not good for investigations.
yeah, if you're unhappy with the department or have a grievance, it's got to be in writing. We don't investigate social media. Everybody has that right. They have that platform. Not discouraging that, but I'm more than willing to, if they want to come in, and like I said, it will be investigated fully on any allegations of misconduct. or interaction.
So back to section 2, item B, statute of limitations. So my opinion is that we should allow at least 1 week because it is a notarized document. You don't want to put an undue hardship on somebody to get the forms submitted. They need the time to make that happen. And honestly, if they were arrested, they may need a couple days.
I would think 30 days would probably be more realistic.
You think 30 days?
Yeah, I think so. Or at least 15.
In the case of a
15
severe
calendar
beating, it might take someone 30 days to get out of jail.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I was
true.
thinking.
Yeah, 30
Yeah.
days is what I think is probably.
Yeah, I would go with the 30 days. If we keep a video record of interactions for 90 days, then it would be no hardship for us to allow 30 days for the formal complaint to be submitted.
Okay. And that's just for the submission. Okay.
And one more,
That's my thought.
Yeah,
this is confidential matter. Freedom of Information Act
not apply.
does
It's
not
personnel-
apply?
This is personnel
Okay,
related, so those are not subject
Okay,
to
well, that's
public
good.
information.
yeah, that's good.
The individual making the complaint is the one that needs to fill it out, submit it. We're not talking about second or third party hearsay.
Or submitting on someone's behalf.
If
Yeah.
it doesn't,
Right.
I could
okay.
see where there might be a problem with that.
I would like to talk
Well,
about
I'm-
section 2, paragraph A.
Okay.
uh, 3 residents, a police officer, 1 of our police officers or somebody else's.
It's still up for discussion. It could be eliminated, it could be added, it could be taken out.
Sandy Oaks.
Okay. An employee of the city of Sandy Oaks and an elected official. What about qualifications for residents to serve on the board?
As I spoke to Chief Pena, obviously, we're not doing an in-depth background check on these individuals. So, an application could be made up as well, reaching out to references, recommendations, character, things of that nature.
I would like to recommend that they be a qualified voter, registered voter in the city of Sandy Oaks, with the residence requirement of at least 6 months.
Yeah, that they can do for
Uh,
Wait, say what? What did you say?
That they voted for Mickey.
I'd also like to recommend that persons currently under citation or involved in a legal matter with the city would not be qualified.
So is it a total of 6 individuals, the way I read it?
There would be 6. I mean, that's the recommendation here. We
Right.
can change that. So, I mean, I like what you talked about here for the qualified, being a qualified registered voter. I don't know that that is necessarily relevant to this, but I do understand. I do understand that.
It's a fairly common consideration. Our
It's one way for proof of residency.
our local residents should be involved in this. So that's why I'm saying they should, number 1, be residents, number 2, be a qualified voter. Simply because that eliminates felons from serving on the board.
Who's gonna appoint these board members? Are we gonna vote, or is it, who's gonna select these applicants that apply?
I mean, looking at and that's still open, we can add to that, myself.
Well, perhaps what we should do is based on the applications or the ones that you're considering, that comes before council and let council have that
Yeah,
final decision.
I think we should have the application to qualified voters in the city of San Diego.
Otherwise, you're gonna have to have at least a minimum age. Somebody 9 years old will qualify
That's
otherwise.
true.
As I
Takes care
said,
of age and residency.
I think we should open applications to all the qualified voters of the city of San Diego, who are not currently a police officer, a city employee, or an elected official.
Or currently,
Or felon.
with a current citation, unresolved citation. Or,
There's
okay,
no issue before the court.
No issue, no
I
previous.
like that. No issue before the court.
That's good.
Okay. Do
What-
we,
What venue would we use to invite these people?
uh,
Our announcement?
no, it would come from the marshal.
Okay.
um, Or legal case against the city. Marshal Lopez, do those sound reasonable to you? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, does anyone else have any comments or questions on any other items on this page?
Are we're gonna develop an application or just accept resumes or?
I think that some form of application needs to be.
There needs to be, yeah, whether it's a short essay, or, I mean, we have to know who they are.
Yep.
And, you know.
And checking against current voter registration.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh,
Now,
There'd be a
I do have a
background
question about the number that we're talking about here. There is, under the next page, under item D, it says the board by majority vote of its members. So, Cassandra, if there's 6 on the board, that would always require a minimum of 4 as a majority. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
uh, Not everybody makes it to every meeting.
Is
So-
that a majority of the members present or the members that are
Would it be a quorum? That wouldn't be.
appointed?
It sounds like, the way that's written sounds like it's a majority of the members appointed or the seats available, even if there's a vacant seat. If you want that to be members present, I usually add a phrase, a majority of the members voting and present, if you want that to be a core or a majority of those present at the meeting. Otherwise, it would be 4.
Okay. I can see potential issues with that.
Well, I see potential issues with having 6 members.
Right.
That
No,
one of the
I-
reasons I brought that up, yeah.
I'm thinking maybe 4 residents. Because you'll not normally have a tied vote with an odd number of
Yeah.
board members.
Right.
We don't have the option here that the mayor casts the deciding vote, so it looks to me like every member of the board will be a voting member, so
So since we're not having to do this under TOMA, then there's no quorum per se, unless we want to define that in this and say, that the board would be convened and a minimum of these individuals must be present in order for the board to consider.
I would say if the board is 75, people need to be in attendance to take any action. I'm a big believer in quorum, man.
Yeah, I would suggest establishing some sort of quorum. That way one member is not making a decision or two members are not making a decision at the meeting.
Exactly.
So what would you suggest on members? You want to move
7.
that from 3 to 4 residents?
I would say 4 residents,
Okay.
a police officer, an employee of the city, and an elected official. Let the residents be in the majority.
I agree.
If the evidence presented does not convince, two of those residents, then we have an issue.
Right. And so do we want to also address the quorum issue in attendance?
Did you say a minimum of 5 in attendance?
Well, you would need a minimum of 4 if you have 7 on the board.
We're
Just
gonna
a
make a
majority.
specific exception and instead
Well-
of calling it a quorum, call it 5.
Well, but who would you require to be, like if individual is not there, then, let's say that the police officer's not there or this employee from the city is not there,
I understand. I don't think
So-
that matters, does it?
Well, every board has to have a presiding officer, okay?
And who would you suggest that be? Who would be a presiding officer of the board?
More than likely an elected official.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay.
Because it is a personnel matter.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that would be the elected official.
Who
Okay.
would be?
The elected official would be the presiding board member.
Could we just get,
Why don't we keep it at 3 residents and then we do 2 elected officials? Just in case the other one can't make it, there's always somebody there to,
I would tend to disagree with that
Uh,
because we want this to be citizen driven as opposed to, I think if you get too many
oh,
elected
because an
officials.
employee, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the employee and then the officer.
yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna have an elected official, a city employee,
Yeah,
and a police officer. I'm gonna stick with my recommendation. We have 4 residents.
could we just get a copy of how Elmendorf does it and look at that? I mean,
that's what this
It's right
is.
here.
theirs doesn't specify any of these things.
I don't believe so.
This is what they're
This
going.
is theirs and we're able to customize it
Yes.
for what works for us.
This is their training regimen. I suspect they have to have either a resolution or an ordinance establishing the board, and that would have,
Yeah, it's a resolution.
that.
Cassandra, is that a resolution or an ordinance that would be in place on this?
I think I prefer an ordinance for this one because it's the creation of a particular board that would be advisory to the police chief. But it really, I think they would have the same teeth, really.
Okay. Okay, so we've decided on 4 residents, a police officer, an employee from the city of Sandy Oaks, and an elected official. And the statute on limitations to submit complaints for 30 days. Was that, okay? Any other comments on the rest of the items on here in section 2?
I have a question on that 30 days. Rather comment, you made a comment by that time that if they're in jail, they would be out or something.
Speak up.
Or their attorney
What-
will notarize the statement and submit it.
I'm wondering, in the extreme case, that only the person involved can file the complaint. But if for some reason they're not able to file a complaint physically, who would be the person that could file?
Actually,
Hmm?
actually, sir, if it's a matter where someone's in jail for 30 days, they are going to be filing the charges with the circuit court, the DA or county attorney. They're not going to be filing the charges with
Okay,
the
so-
city.
So if they were incapacitated for some reason, they could have a lawyer file for
Their
them?
attorney, yes.
Okay.
If they were in
That's-
jail.
See, this is a first step. Okay, we are going to try to deal with citizen issues here in the city. This does not remove any other civil rights. Okay,
Okay.
so most people are not going to take a simple complaint to an attorney and file it in circuit court. And, you know, sincerely, if one of our police officers goes off bat and just shoots someone for no reason, that complaint won't be filed here.
Right.
That complaint will be filed with the Texas Rangers and probably the FBI. So, you know, if somebody's in the hospital 30 days for being beaten up on the side of the road by Marshall Lopez,
In a coma.
that family will have an attorney and be filing
Right.
not a complaint with
Right.
our police department.
Yeah, like an hour later.
You know, I'm just saying. This is really a fairly simple matter
Okay.
because you can file a complaint with the city of Sandy Oaks at no cost. You don't need an attorney. You need to submit your complaint and we will attempt
To address it.
we will investigate it and make a determination whether that's a valid thing. If the marshal needs to discipline his people, then that's his job. Sorry, Marshal Lopez. If the department goes cowboy, then that's our job.
Exactly.
Okay, so, yeah, 30 days, I believe is
Okay,
more than
That's fine, that's
sufficient.
fine. I just clearing it up.
Okay,
I have strong feelings about law enforcement, sir.
Appreciate that.
so this section on the next page, section 3, paragraph B, actually addresses my previous question. It says at least 4 members of the board, including the chair, must be present for any discussion, investigation, or recommendation. So that answered that question.
That answers that.
And my other question was on item D, the majority, which would be 4 of the 6. Actually, it's gonna be 4 of the 7 now.
What page was that on?
That's on, section 3, item D. I don't have page numbers on here. Under powers and duties of the board.
See D?
Section 3.
Yeah, it's the very
Section
next
3,
page.
item D,
Yeah, it's the third to last page.
where it says the board by majority vote of its members.
Yeah.
The majority is defined as 4 of 7.
Okay, you're not changing wording? or you-
No, I just clarification
Oh,
for
okay.
majority.
Gotcha.
Okay. Are there any other questions on this particular one? I do have a question for Marshall Lopez
Yes, ma'am.
on, section 4, cooperation of department, under item A, paragraph A, where it says, that records and material will be provided. accept such records or materials that cannot be disclosed by law. Could you give an example or two of what those may be?
Would the person's previous criminal record be admissible for this discussion?
No,
No,
So that would be, answer that question.
And also the officer's past record.
we're dealing with an incident.
Anything.
There's no trial here. It's dealing with a particular incident that someone has found they felt needed to be addressed.
I don't think that it cannot be disclosed, previous,
Or we wouldn't know until such time as a particular request is made.
certain personnel records are
Yes.
always confidential.
Right.
You're the payroll lady, you know
Yeah.
that.
Right.
HIPAA,
Right.
mental and physical health confidentiality
Okay.
that would not be admissible to this board.
Okay. Okay, we decided this would be by ordinance. Those are all the questions I had.
So then we're going to draw up an ordinance based on this discussion.
Yes, so, Ms. Ortiz, were you able to get notes from this, or do you need me to send you my notes from here?
I got some notes. I don't have the presentation though, so the presentation with your notes would help, and then we can put it in ordinance form.
Okay, I will, I'll have Catherine scan this, and then you'll have it to get the, ordinance prepared for our next meeting.
and also she would, maybe she would have to draw up confidentiality.
Oh, yes, that is one
Agreement.
other thing that we would need is for the board members. We need the waiver. Had it noted here a moment ago. There it is.
The complaint.
The
waiver.
complaint, yes, the complaint waiver, and then also, non-disclosure agreement for the members.
So on the waiver release, we would be mirroring Elmendorf's. That would be attached to the complaint as well.
Okay.
And then also,
We
so
don't have
that they would
Yes.
both have to be notarized. And so.
And the actual complaint, Marshall, you have a copy of what the complaint form would be,
I
or
said-
do you need?
You have the complaint form?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
You need that as well?
No, if it's already, I think it just needs to be put with the Sandy Oaks title. And
Okay, perfect.
Schedule A.
Yeah, why don't you give those two to Catherine and let her scan those?
Okay.
They can become like schedule, exhibit A, exhibit B to the ordinance. It is hot in here.
I turned it down.
Go down the fit.
So, Ms. Ortiz, do we need a motion on this or, to indicate that we're asking the city attorney to draft an ordinance?
I would put in a motion, all that was requested with the amendments that were made to the Elmendorf sample, but it would still go, I guess the ordinance, it would go for a second reading, which would be the next meeting.
I'd like to see the ordinance before we go to the
Well-
first reading.
I don't think the ordinance was provided.
Oh, okay, if this wasn't the ordinance,
No, this was just the discussion on creation of the.
okay, the ordinance will be presented for the first reading at the next meeting, and then unless it's waived for the second reading at the end of April.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is that you would take this, I think Catherine just sent it to you. use that to create the ordinance. And then we'll bring that back at the next meeting,
Yes,
then that'd be the first reading.
yes.
Okay. So would somebody like to make a motion on what we're asking the county to do? Because we are taking action.
Okay, I move that we ask the city attorney to write an ordinance following the
CCRB.
CCRB,
Yes.
CCRB board, establishing the board in accordance with the notes and training that the marshal has provided, and the mayor has made the notations.
Okay,
I'll second that.
Or John said.
so we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Crickmer to instruct the attorney to create an ordinance regarding the CCRB along with the notes and training information that was presented during the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, Marshall Lopez.
You're welcome.
You're not done yet, sorry. Item E, discuss and or possible action on adopting a policy for the police department. So, if you recall, and some of you weren't on council at the time, but may be aware that when the marshal's office was originally set up, there was a policy manual that was adopted by the council. And so in our process of converting from a marshal's office to a police department, the policy manual needed to be adjusted, it needed to be amended. So I've asked Marshall Lopez to put together these bullet points because there's no need to review the entire policy. We're just identifying what those changes are. Some of the things were requested, not requested, required by TCOL. So it says on here that all references to Sandy Oaks Marshal Office have been changed to Sandy Oaks Police Department. All references to deputy and or deputies have been changed to officer and or officers. And all references to city marshal and or marshal have been changed to chief of police and or chief. Was there any other required items that were added or changed?
Well, sir, obviously switching over from marshal's office to police department, TCO wanted certain policies submitted to the state. And so not much of it has changed, but we're adding what TCO requires is 8, but we're adding more policies to our policy manual.
And can you give examples of what those are?
For missing persons, how to handle evidence, domestic calls for service, use of force policy, pursuit policy. Those are the some of the policies that are required by TCO, and the policy manual that we have still outlines it. We're just changing names.
Oh, the policy's already there.
Yes.
We're just changing names.
Yes.
Okay, cut and paste. Okay,
It was a
It's a
long.
fairly thick document.
I can do that on my telephone, but it is a fairly thick document.
It is a very thick document.
I was here when we adopted it. I've actually read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a while to read it. Cause and there's a lot of good stuff in there, and I've actually had to reference back to it on a couple of occasions. Yeah.
Excuse me, my apologies. So, as I stated before, as you move forward to moving from a marshal's office to a police department, we require what the state requires need to be submitted to the state to be accepted as a police department. use of force, vehicle pursuit, professional conduct of officers, domestic abuse protocols, response to missing persons, impartial policing, evidence collection, eyewitness identification, and the administrative structure of law enforcement agency or police department. So those things, along with the other things that's submitted with the state, that's here, for what the state requires to be submitted. However, this is our policy of what we're adding, of what we already added, just changing names and titles. This covers more in depth of other things, such as what's the TCO doesn't require administration, core values, department emails, discipline, meals and breaks, mission statement, personnel complaint procedures, structure and responsibility, timekeeping, evaluations, off-duty employment, qualifications, appearance and grooming, uniform policy, sexual harassment, public and media relations, legal affairs, and so on and so on.
And again, this is all in part and parcel to what we're doing with the transition from marshal's office to police department. Just another one of the items that need to be addressed. And is that document in the OneDrive?
I haven't received it.
Oh, you haven't received it, okay.
The
policy.
Yeah, I
But
just,
it's- No, not on the OneDrive.
You sent it to me?
No.
I was gonna say, that would be.
Could you?
of course.
Well, what I'm thinking is.
Yeah, I need a little light reading.
Helps you sleep.
Well, you want him to read the whole thing now?
No.
No,
Yeah.
please don't.
Oh, Lordy.
And like I said, it goes into field operations, alarm, how to handle alarm responses, arrest, detention. The list goes on and on.
Now, he does make his officers read it.
That's what
Yeah,
I was gonna ask.
it's been 3 or 4 years since I've read it. I'm due for a review. No, because people ask questions.
Well, they do, and I like to have it
And they
for
deserve
reference.
answers.
No,
and
I
they
do. I
deserve
like it.
correct answers.
I like it for reference.
You know, because people talk to me that won't ever talk to you, just like people talk to you that won't ever talk to me.
Right.
So,
So what I would suggest is if you could get the final document to Catherine.
Mhm.
Catherine, post it on the OneDrive. And we can, I think in OneDrive, we can limit access. You can assign permissions on who can actually view that.
Does that for the officers have that on their screen if they need it in the
Yeah,
field?
each of them is given a copy. They sign for it. Everything that's in that policy manual, they're aware of it, they're acknowledging it, and any infractions or policy violations goes to that.
Okay. So item E is up for review. Or, I'm sorry, motion review.
can we adopt amendments without rewriting the ordinance or resolution that we? Because I don't see a resolution or anything to.
If the original policy was adopted just by a motion, it can be adopted by a motion. If it was adopted by resolution, it should be adopted by or amended by resolution. But I couldn't find a resolution that adopted the prior policy.
I don't think we did. I think we just adopted the policy.
Yes.
Okay, then I make a motion that we adopt the amended Sandy Oaks Marshal's Office Policy Manual to the Sandy Oaks City Police Policy Manual.
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Rapino to adopt the policy, the amended policy of the Sandy Oaks Marshal's Department to the Sandy Oaks Police Department. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Marshal Lopez, thank you for your time,
You're
and
welcome.
you're free to go get some rest. I know it's been a
Thank you.
very long week.
Or hang out with the old folks.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hey. Okay,
Have a
we'll
good
move.
evening.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 6, Animal Control, updates and announcements from Animal Control Advisory Committee. Chair Jennifer Puente with possible discussion and action, and I stole your thunder inadvertently,
Did.
but that's
It's okay.
okay. You have another announcement.
Yes, we're gonna have our first meeting April the 12th. And I just want to give a shout out to Michelle for keeping in contact with Penny Paws. And she's the one who got Penny Paws to come out the 3rd Saturday of the month. So I just want to give her a shout out and a thank you.
Yes. Thank
April
you.
12th, 6:30
April
p.m.
12th, 6:30 p.m.
6:30, okay. Perfect, thank you. Item 7, Public Works, update and announcements from Park Advisory Committee Chair Tom Rapina with possible discussion and action. Go ahead, Mr. Rapina.
We will have our next Parks Committee meeting on April the 6th. I hope to be there that day. I'm having surgery that day, but I will make it. But it's not that bad.
Jeez.
So,
You're a hell of a trooper.
But are we gonna meet this Saturday at the baseball field?
Yes.
We are? Okay.
Yes.
That was in my mind. Just wanted to make sure.
And that time,
Yeah.
what time? 10?
10 usual. I have been talking to the Gary Smith and Dan Reese of the state grants guy. I guess he's the administrator. Dan Reese is, Gary Smith is with GrantWorks. And I've been talking to him about the 2 grants that are available. They think that the state grant, the parks grant's going to close on September 30th. But they're not sure yet, since the meeting is not, they're going to announce in June. That's the one that has the 20% match. That's probably the most likely one that we should apply to. The only problem with that one is it doesn't have anything to do with the trail, which we probably want to go with. The other one has a 50% match, but I did find out that 50% does not have to be cash. It can be us using our machinery. It can be volunteer hours. It can be a lot of things that we can use to make up that 50%. So I'll have more information about that when we have our meeting on April the 6th.
Okay, perfect.
And we can maybe figure out what we want GrantWorks to go after, maybe both of them
Okay,
for different things.
okay. All right,
And that's all I have.
all right, thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 8. John, be careful with your pen. When you drop it. Item 8A, discuss and or possible action on ordinance 2021-178, providing for registration and inspection of residential rental properties within the city. So from our last meeting, we had quite a bit of discussion on we got stuck on a couple of items on that particular ordinance. So what we did was each of the council members were to provide recommendations to Ms. Ortiz to take the proposed ordinance that we were working from and incorporate those in. If you work with the red line version, that's the best way to do this, because it does show the changes that were submitted. So under section 1 is the first item. And it looks like code compliance officer has been struck from the definitions. And added is rental certificate of occupancy. A certificate issued by the city of Sandy Oaks after the successful completion of a residential rental property inspection authorizing occupancy by tenants. You should have this, this rental certificate right here. And if I'm not mistaken, Alderman Fillinger brought this along with another document, but we'll move through this first if you want to talk through that.
Okay,
The certificate of occupancy application.
yes, well, we have several different things happening. One is the registration. 2 is the inspection. And 3 is us saying, yes, move them in. And the rental certificate of occupancy is just like in a city that has a permit process. You cannot move into your brand new house until you get a certificate of occupancy. Commercial entities, even out here, under the fire marshal's purview, cannot open the door until they have the certificate of occupancy. This is the final go-round where, number one, the inspection's been done. The owner or manager submits contact information, tenant information for emergency contact, and also the owner and the tenant, by signing this, agree that they've read and understand the ordinance and agree to abide by the terms. Then a city official signs off on the bottom of it, gives it to the owner, move them in.
I think that makes sense, because some of this stuff we had already identified in the ordinance, but
Yeah.
this gives us a form to complete.
Yeah.
There's a point.
Yes, okay. And then we'll move
Wait a
over.
minute, we have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, does the city evict people that don't comply with their end of the bargain, the tenants? Does we get involved with kicking them out if the landlord says it's fine that you can do this and it's in violation of every
No.
safety code there
No,
is?
but if you've agreed to abide by this ordinance,
Right,
violations of the ordinance carry fines and penalties.
okay, that makes sense.
And remember, the intent of this ordinance is not to be
It's not a-
tremendously heavy-handed. It is an effort to protect the tenants from, for lack of a better word, slumlords who are willing to rent out a property that is somewhat not habitable because it has electrical or water issues or septic issues or
So it gives the
Structural
city
issues.
recourse to
it is an effort
enforce
to.
ordinances against the tenant, or is
The
it
property
against
owner.
the
Not the
property
tenant.
Not
owner?
the tenant, the
property owner.
property owner.
So then the property owner has recourse against the tenant.
They
but
should
we're not
not.
involved in that,
Right, but that's
John.
what'll happen.
okay? Our concern and drive for this is landlords do not maintain a habitable
Correct,
Right.
residence.
understood.
Okay, if you've got bare wires, if you've got no water connection, If you have no septic system, you cannot rent that property,
Right.
okay? If you don't meet minimum codes such as ground fault interrupters, handrails on steps, you cannot rent that structure. This is a process where we can identify health and habitability problems, advise the property owner that they have to make these corrections before they can rent a property. There's also provision that if a major breakdown occurs, they have a limited amount of time, okay? If the circuit breaker box in a house burns up, they can have no electric service until that's repaired. So we have a time limit where the property owner has to make these repairs. One of the standards is a home heating system has to be able to maintain 68-degree ambient temperature in the home. Okay, so if during a cold snap the central heat goes out, the property owner has to make the repairs, or the tenants actually have a legal way to make that happen, or we can document this heat system did not work. That would give them grounds to terminate their lease. Okay.
Did we ever get with the county to see more or less how many rental properties we have here in Sandy Oaks?
I have not made that request yet. I wanted to wait until we knew if this was gonna pass.
Because I'm wondering how many of those slumlords do we already have? And if
Too
they
many,
kick out if they kick those tenants out, then we have families with no homes.
Got one across the street from me.
Yeah,
And then we're gonna have a bigger problem on our hands.
right. Well, with most things that the city implements, we don't come in and say, guess what, last night,
we don't
this is
bring
what
in-
we did, you're
We
out.
didn't bring in the bulldozer. We don't.
It
bring
has
in
to be
the
brought
bulldozer.
to our attention and then,
And then you need to work with the property owners to rectify it. I mean,
And-
but
Let's move on to the next thing here. This is an inspection list. Items in red means you're gonna fail. Immediately, you're gonna fail. Okay? Items in black, you may have a tenant in there, and we might give you 30 days on some of that. Anything in red is an emergency condition. And the first one is if a structure's unsafe and uninhabitable, you just can't rent it. I'm sorry. Okay?
and that all starts with the inspection.
Mhm.
That's the first thing.
Okay? But we're not geared up to do 100 inspections within 30 days of passing this ordinance. We're not geared up to receive 100 applications within the first day, 30 days of passing this ordinance. Okay, I don't know how we're going to do that other than county electric company records.
Right.
To establish, is it an owner occupied home? Or is it a non-owner occupied home?
I can get
Right.
I can get that list from the county. That's not an issue.
Okay,
The other way is, again, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. This has been going on for years, decades out here.
yes,
So the first ones to address, if you see a for rent sign, that's your starting point. That, I mean, you've got to start somewhere. We're not looking to evict anybody.
No,
But
I don't
what
think
we
we're
want-
gonna evict, but if we come to a landlord, say somebody does make a formal complaint, and then we come to the landlord and say, hey, you gotta fix this, this, and this, and their situations, they may not have a very good financial situation, be like, you know what, I'm not fixing it, they need to leave. And then that rental family has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Well,
Who's doing
ma'am.
the inspections?
We have a building inspector. It's,
Did we get one?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
they're
we
a contractor. Yeah.
But the tenants do have rights, so obviously they can't be evicted within.
The eviction process is not that simple. If they have a lease, it's a court
Mhm.
procedure. Although, we have another ordinance called an unsafe structure where the city can go in and say, you have to leave. Okay? In a worst case scenario, would you rather be evicted and have no place to go, or would you rather flee from a burning home and have no place to go?
And
And no clothes and no
Yeah.
possessions?
And to be honest, there may be tenants who aren't aware that the structure is unsafe.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
And the other thing is, you can fine the landlord $500 a day, right? If he doesn't fix the,
And
isn't that in the ordinance?
I believe that it is.
in this,
it is
in this
the-
ordinance,
Yeah,
And so,
yeah, you're right, at the very end under penalties,
and that adds up quick,
it does.
and
But,
we can
but
put a
quite
lien against
honestly,
his property.
quite honestly, the building inspection may reveal that a home is not, we have a degree of repair. So after an inspection, based on that report, that may be a demolition. It may not even be inhabitable at all. But I think if we start from what's somebody trying, let's identify what they are first.
Mhm.
Then what properties are being listed for rent, and let's start there.
Yeah.
Because there's a number, and that's gonna take time to do that. But, and then we'll just be mindful of that going on. Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer had a good point about, landlords possibly kicking tenants out because they, in their eyes got in trouble. And, Charles said it takes a while, but, and then, when you mentioned that some of them may not even realize it's inhabitable. Well, they probably don't realize that they could take, that there's a process. They're probably thinking,
Exactly.
that there's some that aren't aware of the process and just feel like they have to get out because they were told they have to get out.
If they have a lease,
I
what they
doubt.
don't know.
Yeah, if it's a substandard building or
It can be
that
a problem.
bad, I doubt they have. a
actually,
lease.
it's easier to evict someone that has a lease than it is someone who doesn't have a lease.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
if they're,
because you have that.
if they're
That's
current
fact.
with their lease, then, they're,
Well, there is, the Texas Attorney General's office does have a renter's rights. And then I had heard, you said something and it made me think about that. There's another organization, there is about, that addresses tenant rights. It's outside of the government. It's an organization, association, and I'll
Your
look and find the
local
name.
legal aid.
Yeah.
and these guys have people in these houses because they want to make money. They're not interested in kicking them out.
No, they're not.
Yeah,
But-
and they want to put
Well-
somebody in there if they do, and if we keep them from doing that,
Right.
the monkey's on their back.
Okay, I'm gonna step right up and say, we have some people living in structures that they should not be living in,
I agree.
okay? Now, we need to give the property owners an opportunity to rehabilitate those structures. Okay? But we should not have to just live with it,
Right.
which is what we're doing now.
Right.
Okay? Bobby should have been put out years ago.
Is he still there?
No, he's
No.
gone.
I
On
haven't
the
seen
south
him.
He is, the
But-
building's
Gone.
gone.
No, that building is gone.
He-
It's flattened.
It's, yeah,
Yeah, he's still in the community, but the structure's no longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the place was gone, but
So I'm gonna stop now because we've talked about the
No, I-
RCO and the
No,
checklist.
no,
Yeah, we're
get
good.
it done.
And we
I
can
think
go
we're good
through-
with that.
We know what the problem is.
Okay.
We can go through the rest of the
Okay,
changes.
so the next section here, we're dealing with section 2. Section 2, paragraph B. Well, let me go back up. Paragraph A, item 10, where we're striking everywhere co-compliance. Well, item 10 says tenant names, the contact information for all persons listed on the current leases, and all current leases shall be presented to the city, removing co-compliance officer and replacing that with city for review. And then item 11, same thing, striking co-compliance officer and replacing it with city. We're onto paragraph B. We still need a fee, and that's one of the places that we got stuck at last time, was the fee for,
The initial,
for the initial rental property registration.
Okay. I don't think that fee should be extraordinarily high because there will be a separate charge.
you said 35 to 85 or
Uh,
something?
There will be a separate charge for the inspection itself.
Right.
Because our building inspector is a contract employee. Here's what I want to know. How much is it going to cost the city
Right.
to do the registration? And that's what the fee should be.
Exactly. It should not be a profit. It should be to recover the cost associated with having that
Okay.
that in place. So what's required is we have to have the forms available. We have to have somebody who receives them, reviews them. They have to be filed, they have to be maintained, they have to be, set up on a review schedule. I would say each form is probably gonna require, let's say, 2 hours. 2 hours total from start to finish. And if we looked at our average, our starting pay, if you will, let's use $15 an hour as an example, $30 is a starting point.
$35?
I'd say 50 to cover unusual circumstances. We got the paper, we have to buy.
Well, yeah, we have to originate the forms, they have to be filled out.
Yeah.
We have to issue the COO or the RCO.
Right.
Got to count, yeah.
And we will be issuing the RCO out of the city clerk's office,
Right.
after we've received a past inspection from the building inspector. So, yeah, I'm wavering in the $35 to $50 range.
Make 50 is safer.
Okay, then, do we need a motion to amend?
Alder- or Mayor Pro Tem, you said that the inspection was at the city or the property owner's expense, but I only see that, I may be missing it, where they contest the inspection. Otherwise, it's at the city's expense. So I don't know if that has any play with affects your fee.
Not for the filing, I don't believe.
Not for the, okay.
So we're talking strictly the registration now.
Right, we're talking, yeah, the registration of the property. The initial,
So that'd just be part of the changes.
I'm sorry?
It'd be part of the whole change.
Well, it would be, but the question here, Ms. Ortiz, at the moment is that under section 2, paragraph B, should we go ahead and ask for a motion at that time for filling in those blanks, or should we wait until the end?
Since the fee seems to be up for discussion, I'd suggest a motion with a vote on the particular fee.
Would you like to move the motion, sir?
I make a motion that is reference to ordinance 2021-178, item B,
Section 2, item B.
section 2, item B, shall pay a fee of $50 per initial rental property registration.
I'll second.
Who said that?
I
Who
did.
said that? Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Bricken and a second by Alderman Rapino to amend section 2, paragraph B to read a $50 per initial rental property registration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, let's move on. Item C, section 2, paragraph C. So originally, well, what this says now, an owner, landlord, manager of rental property may not permit or allow another person to occupy or lease rental property without a registration required by this section and issuance of the rental certificate of occupancy. All debts to the city must be paid in full prior to issuance of the RCO. Upon issuance, the RCO is good for 2 years unless one of the following occurs. Number 1, change of property ownership within the year. Number 2, the property owner loses the RCO due to violation or compliance. Or 3, change of tenant. The registration fee will not be required to change the information required by subsection A10 herein for a rental property registration if there is no other change in information under subsection A. And so quick question, where it talks about the all debts to the city must be paid in full, that would be related to this agreement, is that correct? Ms. Ortiz?
I would venture to say property taxes have to be paid.
That's where I was going with that.
Is
The,
any,
the inspection fees have to be paid,
So inspection fees,
the registration has to be paid, all debts.
all debts, okay.
Okay.
Do we need to, all debts covers it, correct?
I think so. I think it's generally all debts to the city.
It
And
could include, we did land clearing for some reason, something like that.
If there was a
That's
lien on
a
the
whole
property.
different thing, because there won't be an RCO issued.
Right.
If there is a mound of trash and debris in the yard, that will have to be corrected before an RCO is issued. And that's a somewhat different matter. But the property won't go to rent if we have to bring in the bulldozers
Right.
and clear
Trash.
the trash.
And the property taxes is a good point on here, because if you have a landlord who's renting a property that is, 5, 6, 7, 10 years behind in property taxes, the county's gonna sell that property out from under that tenant anyway.
Yeah,
So that's gonna create, another situation, so.
Could there be a situation where that we've addressed and I just didn't see, where a property owner, lives in Michigan and is being handled by a rental agency here?
Yeah,
Is
well,
that
we
covered
do
in
talk,
there?
it says right here, it could be the owner, the landlord, or the manager of the rental property.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to, this would be section 3, paragraph A. We're removing the code compliance officer may and replacing it with the word shall. Paragraph B, we are removing city code compliance officer, and also the preliminary inspection is to identify issues of substantial concern that affect the habitability of the property involved, not merely aesthetic or surface level concerns. Dangerous electrical problems, water leaks, structural damage, inefficiencies, plumbing, sewer blockages, gas leaks, and other major problems will be the type of issues the city will be assessing. So now it's going to read, when an inspection is ordered, a preliminary inspection shall be conducted by a building inspector working at the direction of the city. It's much simpler. Paragraph C, we're removing the word inspector, and it's going to read, the preliminary inspection shall be conducted within 10 days of the city's order. Paragraph E, we are adding for occupied rental properties. So it's now going to read, if actionable dangerous issues exist in the preliminary inspection report, the owner / landlord / manager has 5 business days for occupied rental properties to remedy the issues and provide the city proof of such compliance. The cost of any remedy is the responsibility of the owner / landlord / manager and not the tenants or the city. Paragraph F, we're removing city code compliance officer from that one. And on to the next page, paragraph H, removing the word article and replacing it with the word ordinance. And it looks like we were capitalizing some words for city council and striking the term the code compliance officer and replacing it with a peace officer employed or appointed by the city. Paragraph I, we're striking city code compliance officer and or. And then further in that same paragraph, striking and or city code compliance officer. And then in paragraph J, the term running at large is replaced with just at large. And then there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. Okay, so we are adding reference to ordinance 2020-174 as amended. And then the language that's added is the owner / landlord / manager of the rental property shall arrange solid waste disposal and collection and recycling services as provided by city ordinance, authorizing solid waste disposal and collection and recycling services. See ordinance number 2015-31 is amended. I think that's important because what we see in some cases is you have tenants who are not.
Yeah. We actually inserted that same language as paragraph K there.
Yeah, I was just going to turn the page and move on to that section. So paragraph K has been added, which says The owner of every occupied premises shall supply approved covered containers for rubbish, and the owner of the premises shall be responsible for the removal of garbage in accordance with the International Property Maintenance Code 308.2.1, rubbish storage facilities, and City Ordinance 2015-31, approving contract with Tiger and any amendments thereto.
Didn't Tiger provide the trash cans?
They do.
They provided one.
But remember, we do not mandate that everybody has to use Tiger. So what that is offering is the property owner has
Property owner can supply his own
and provide the
rubbish
service
containers.
themselves.
Wait a minute.
and haul it to the dump, but he cannot hire a different company to
Exactly.
provide containers and pick up.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so, and then that moved, the previous paragraph K is now paragraph L with the insertion of that. And then the only other thing that changed is the past and approved date changed from February to March.
Are you saying that they, I'm a little confused here. My intention was that they would have Tiger weekly service. Okay, now
But
you're saying that they can do it, the landlord management company could do it themselves. Is that what you're saying?
yes, sir.
It's an option. We have not mandated trash service for
we-
every
we-
property out here.
We don't, unless we mandate trash service to every resident.
Well, every residence is one thing. These are rental properties and people renting property. That's vague enough to where he could do that every 6 months and get away with it.
Right.
About the point. However, I don't believe he can supply an approved closed container and only service it once every 6 months.
But if he had a container, he could, even though I see other brands, he's supposed to use Tiger, right?
Well, if they place a dumpster out here, Tiger would be the only one that could service
Because they
it.
have to admit, they also have to abide by the existing ordinance that establishes the trash service, which is Tiger.
But I see other trash services here.
I do too. On Priest.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm having a meeting with them this week about it.
There was a thing on Nextdoor, somebody was talking about Apache Waste.
Yeah.
Trucks.
That's gone. That one's gone.
Although I never saw a single Apache.
Yeah.
But that one's gone?
Yeah, that one's
Okay.
gone.
I just wondered, I
So-
didn't want a loophole here that the guy could
Well,
leave it for 6
exactly.
months.
Exactly.
And
So
he could do it
Cassandra,
himself, but at the same schedule.
Exactly.
Can you reference an ordinance as far as the timely?
Well, we do have that, but I have a question for Ms. Ortiz. So there's a bit of redundancy between paragraph J and paragraph K. And I like the wording in J and strike K unless there's a reason that we would need both.
No, I believe it is somewhat redundant. That's why there's the side note. What is in J was discussed by the council at the last meeting. K was later proposed, and so I left them both in to either include them both or change the wording or leave one, strike one.
I think J is more clear where it says the owner/landlord/manager of the rental property shall arrange solid waste disposal and collection and recycling services as provided by city ordinance authorizing solid waste disposal and collection and recycling, see ordinance number 201. I mean, that's clear.
Can we
That's
move that to
clear.
K?
The other
Can that
one
just
gets
be K?
fuzzy.
Take K out, we can strike K altogether. It's
Yeah.
redundant with the other.
I move that we remove on the ordinance 2021-178, section 3, section K, that we remove that.
Is that the one in red?
Yes.
Yes.
And we, like to also move, we adopt the, no,
No, one and none.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Crickmer and a second by Alderman Puente to strike section 3, paragraph K, from the proposed ordinance. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, Alderman Fillinger, you had another,
no matter.
okay. So, with that,
K has become L, is that correct?
It'll go back.
it'll go back. K will now be the one below it that is marked L. It'll be K
Okay.
again. Okay, so what is needed there is now a motion for the overall proposed agenda as amended, or proposed ordinance as amended.
I move that we accept the proposed amendment 2021-178 as amended, that we accept it.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Crickmer and a second by Alderman Rapino to approve the proposed ordinance 2021-178 as amended.
Can I amend the motion?
Please do.
Not approved, but we adopt.
Okay.
Oh, is that what you want me to say? Okay, sorry, I'm gonna restate myself. We have a motion by Alderman Crickmer and a second by Alderman Rapino to accept adopt proposed ordinance. Sorry, it's getting late. 2021-178 as amended. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. And because this is a health and safety, it does not require a second reading. I'm sorry? It does require publication, yes, but it does not require a second reading. Okay, we have one last thing to do here.
Yeah,
This
the real
is-
simple one,
Huh?
the real simple.
So what, we are applying for a grant through GrantWorks. They're writing it and helping us through this process, which is educational. And part of the process, we had a bid that was posted looking for statement of qualifications for engineering firms as part of this grant application. So I don't know how they did it, but we got 5 responses. I mean, we should use them all the time when we're looking for something. They did a good job. And part of the selection committee, when I was working with GrantWorks originally, we had to have 3 people that would be I'm forgetting what they call it. Those are yours? Okay. They call it evaluation. They needed 3 evaluators. And so the intent is there's a form that we filled out based on the statement of qualifications that was received from the engineering firms, and we rate them. And the way it works is each one of them gets a rating based on the same criteria. And then you total up those points, and in the end, it tells you who wins the bid, basically. And Catherine, I'd rather you have yours, and we'll go through each of the ones.
Oh, that was the only one I didn't.
Yeah,
That was a-
okay. So there's one form per engineering firm. And the evaluators were myself, Alderman Fillinger, and I made Catherine participate. She hated me for it, but that's okay. So what I'd like to do is go through these individually, each engineering firm individually. So, the first one I've got up here, well, let's start with, and some of my books fell apart as I was, like this one, all the pages fell out as I was working through it.
Hard on the books.
Huh?
You're hard on the.
I am hard on it. Let's start with Mendez Engineering. So I gave Mendez a total score of 86 out of 100.
86.
What?
86.
No kidding. Catherine,
87.
87? Okay.
Suck up.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, let's go to 6S Engineering.
75.
I gave him a 67.
I gave him an 83.
You gave him an 83. Okay. Okay. Let's go to
What did
Kate.
What did Catherine give him?
Catherine,
75.
she liked him, I guess.
So we're gonna have.
No,
to
so
jolly
just
up.
so well, what we'll do is we will then go back when we're done and see who had the highest and see where we're at. But let me read some of the questions just so y'all understand. So they have 3 categories: experience, work performance, and capacity to perform. So based on what the engineering firms provided in their statement of qualifications, we look for these types of information in here to see if they qualify. So under experience, there's 4 questions. Has previously designed, and in my case, I wrote drainage type of projects because that's what we're looking for. Number 2, has worked on federally funded construction projects. Maximum points are 15 on that one, maximum points are 20 on the first. Number 3 has worked on projects that were located in this general region, and that's worth 10 points. And they give a little caveat about location. Number 4 is extent of experience in project construction management, and that's worth 15 points. So the total point score for experience could be 60. Under work performance, there's only 3. Past projects completed on schedule, max of 10 points. Number 2, manages projects within budgetary constraints, that's worth 5 points. Number 3 is work product is of high quality, and that is worth 10 points. So a total of 25 on that section. And under capacity to perform, there were 3. 1 is the staff level and experience of the staff with 5-point max. Number 2 is adequacy of resources with 5 points. And the last is professional liability insurance is in force, and that is worth 5 points. So you total up each of the 3 sections and you give an overall rating at the end. So on KMEA, I gave them a 58.
You gave him what?
58.
Wow.
66.
Say again?
66.
You gave him 66?
I gave him a 77.
Okay. Rakowitz.
Spell that.
Rakowitz, Rakowitz. I gave them an 84,
91.
91.
81.
There you go. Are you keeping track of all of these?
I am.
Awesome. Okay. And then the last one is Southwest Engineers.
Southwest
And-
Enterprise.
I'm sorry?
Is it engineers or enterprises?
It says engineers, Southwest Engineers.
Oh, I put enterprises on my phone. You said the last one. I thought there was.
There's 5.
Yep.
Okay. So on Southwest Engineers, I actually gave them 100.
I did too.
You have 100 too?
I did
No, wait, I'm sorry. I gave him
What
a
You
did
did
98.
not? What did you give them?
I gave him a 98.
76.
Ooh.
I gave him a 98. I didn't.
Oh, you gave him a 98, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's kind of like Southwest Engineers money. Or
Well, I don't
high
know. It
score.
depends.
They got
So,
high score.
so what we need to do,
I think Jennifer's been doing this.
Did you get
Yeah.
the totals?
Yeah, 274 is with Southwest Engineers.
274 for Southwest Engineers.
Mhm.
What were the others?
What's the,
Rakowitz had 256.
Wait 1 second. Let me find my record.
Rakowitz,
256.
KMEA 201,
201.
6S was 225, and then Mendez at 259.
What was Southwest again?
274,
And what was Rakowitz?
256.
256. Okay.
This is for grants that we select.
We have to have an engineer, so the whole grant process that we go through, there are a number, I had to do an evaluation on an administrator, and it didn't have to be a team effort on that one. And then we come back and they say, okay, now we're ready, we published for that, now we have to do this. This is where we are in this step. So once we have adopted this resolution here, selecting Southwest Engineers is who won, yeah. Then GrantWorks runs with it from there, and then we start the engagement process of working through what is needed. They'll define what their terms are. I'm hoping that some of the work that we've already had done, that they can accept that. But we won't know until we move forward. So
Are they San Antonio local?
they're actually out of Gonzales.
Oh, that's not too far.
Yeah. But, the thing I liked about them, they've been around for a while, and it was odd that their statement of qualifications almost mirrored this evaluation form.
Mirrored what?
Mirrored the evaluation. I mean, if I needed the answers, I could go back and look over the projects that they have done. And,
that's why I did not score them so high.
oh, really?
They have a lot of drainage projects, but they're sewage type drainage projects.
Well, true.
Which is a whole lot different than, and
Hydrology.
Mendez has a lot of waterway and drainage, open drainage projects. So if we were awarding a sewer system, where we'd have to have collection stations and pump stations and all of that, I would feel a lot more strongly about this. Also, and just my consideration, their completed projects aren't really local.
Which one, Southwest?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They do work in Lavernia. I mean, they have a lot of,
Lavernia was one of the locals, but most of them are down.
oh, well, but if you read the tally sheet, it talks about when you say, it says, note, location for architectural or engineer may be a selection criteria, provided its application leaves an appropriate number of qualified firms, given the nature and size of the project to compete for the contract. I looked at Southwest Engineers more from the perspective of they dealt with cities comparable to what in this South Texas region, a lot of those places that they did that type of work were cities similar to us.
Well, again, the projects that I saw weren't actually the project that we're
It was
doing.
hard to find anyone that's done a project like what we're doing.
Well, actually, Mendez has several waterway
I see.
and channels.
Yeah.
Where,
Theirs is the one that I looked at so closely and it fell apart.
and again, and I'm not really saying anything bad about the other company. It's just,
Who was the one that you all had numbers within a couple of digits of each other?
Mendez.
Mendez.
It is.
and
Well, no,
Southwest.
Rakowitz and Mendez. Rakowitz was 256, Mendez was 259.
Yeah, but Rockowitz had an 84, an 81, and a 91. Mendez had 86, 86, 87. More consistent.
Who was that one?
That was.
That was Mendez.
I thought it was 100.
No.
No, that's
No.
Southwest Engineering.
That was Southwest that had that.
What did you like about Mendez?
My question,
Well, yeah, so, okay. They're in San Antonio. These people are in Gonzales. When we have someone that's offering oversight, we pay for hours and mileage as well as the others. And Gonzales is not right next door. If this was a multi-million-dollar pumping in that type drainage, I would say, yeah, we need Southwest. We're talking less than $500,000 to provide drainage in an open ditch. I just don't see,
that was
Keep in
my
mind, keep
question.
in mind that our city engineer is out of New Braunfels.
understand that.
Yeah. Catherine has a question.
Yes,
When we chose Mendez Engineering for the master plan, wasn't that issue brought up that we can't choose based on the location of the applicant or, you know, I want to say that, it seemed like that was brought up.
Well, you're limited. I mean, there's not a engineering firm on every corner.
Yeah.
So you are limited. You have to look at the work that they've done, and that's the nature of their business.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
not the fact that they're the closest, that
Right.
they are in San Antonio versus.
but we can, again, look at,
What about the size of their project?
Well, they have those in there. But basically, at this point, we have gone through the process, and based on the process, it's Southwest Engineers.
that's true.
So-
And also,
No,
isn't this contingent on receiving the grant? So,
Exactly.
Well,
But again,
yeah.
this is part of
Yeah.
the process.
yeah.
Yeah, we haven't got the grant yet.
No, we have not, but we're working on it.
We're
So
working
is there a
on it.
motion for that?
Well, we need a motion to approve this resolution
Oh, yeah.
for the selection of,
No, I know, right, it's certainly on my paperwork.
Here, you can use mine.
Say resolution.
it is a resolution. It's resolution 2021-131.
Are you wanting the resolution itself?
Yes,
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood.
okay, I move that we adopt resolution number 2021-131. Section 1, that Southwest Engineering be awarded a contract to provide Texas CDBG application and project related professional engineering service for the 2021-2022 Texas Community Development Block Grant Community Development Fund Project.
Oh, there it is.
Second,
All right, we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Rapino to approve resolution 2021-131, naming in section 1 that Southwest Engineers be awarded a contract to provide the Texas CDBG application and project-related professional engineering services. Do we have, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Rapino, yes. And with that, hold on. It is 9:01 and we are now adjourned, and thank you, everyone.
All right,
Good night, everyone.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does anybody know what